Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm drawing more characters into the Marvel Rivals art style, and the lucky pair are Ant-Man and the Wasp. From the beginning, I knew I wanted to draw these two characters, specifically the Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne versions. For me, my first experience with the Avengers was watching the animated series Earth's Mightiest Heroes as a kid. I still hold the opinion that it is the best screen adaptation of the Avengers to date. And of course, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne were part of the founding members of the Avengers. Admittedly, when the MCU announced the first Avengers movie, I was a bit disappointed that the film would not be including them, and I'm still a little salty about it. I also was disappointed when I found out the Ant-Man films were not focused on Hank and Janet, although in hindsight, Scott Lang's Ant-Man was definitely more suited to the overall narrative of the MCU. Even now, in Rivals, the Ant-Man and Wasp duo is nowhere to be found, although that might be because of a more technical issue. Honestly, I'm not sure how well these two characters in particular would work in the game, because of one pretty obvious detail about their powers. Shrinking to insect size would make them almost impossible to hit. I think there are a few ways this can be resolved. The first option is that while shrunken down, the hitbox remains the same, so that the ability functions similarly to being invisible. Another is giving the ability a time limit. Another is to make the shrunken versions of the characters larger, so at the very least they're not impossible to hit. My last idea is that Ant-Man and Wasp could be a combined hero, like Cloak and Dagger. However, I don't think this would work as well in the long run. As separate characters, though, I feel like Wasp would be a duelist. She uses a pretty standard array of powers in the comics, mostly just shrinking and using her bioelectric blasts or stings. There could definitely be a stun or slowing effect worked into her abilities, or some different damage effects depending on her size. Ant-Man is a more complicated character. His Pym particles in the comics frequently have him switching between insect, normal, and giant size. At regular and ant-sized, I thought he might fit the role of a strategist. Perhaps his abilities in the game could involve shrinking enemies to knock them back, or shrinking allies to heal them. I haven't figured out how this ability would work without interrupting gameplay for allies, but I also thought that he could put up walls with an ability that places enlarged versions of various items. But Hank Pym also has the ability to make himself into Giant Man, something that would realistically class him as in a tank role. It might be interesting to have a character that could alternate between the strategist and vanguard roles. Or it might be a terrible idea, and that's why I don't make games. Let me know what kind of abilities you would like to see for these characters, or what you think of mine. While thinking about this though, I had an idea about a new map for the game that would be Dr. Pym's laboratory, where the playing field is essentially a table in a science lab, and everything is huge. I just think that would be really cool. Now, let's look back at the designs of the characters, which is what I'm arguably better at. I went with a more classically inspired design for Ant-Man, with a bit of a futuristic spin. So the circular designs are basically the pockets of Pym particles, all connected by tubes and wiring. And it's something I excluded from Jan's design because her ability to shrink is due to cellular implantation of the Pym particles, letting her change her size at will, rather than relying on a suit. Now I know eventually Hank Pym can do this as well, but I've elected to ignore it, since, like I said before, I'm very influenced by the Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and that's the way it was in the show. Let's just say that my versions of the characters are relatively early on in their superhero careers. For Wasp's design, I wanted to go in a direction that is a bit further from any of her existing designs, while still drawing inspiration from them. It was a running theme in her early appearances that she would have different costume designs, attributing to her background as a fashion designer, so I wanted something different from my version as well. Her silhouette is designed to appear more wasp-like, her skirt train resembling a stinger, and two front hair pieces representing antennae. The chunky bubble-like boots was something I felt she should have, but I couldn't figure out why until I came across a picture of the next Avengers, the team of young heroes that were the children of the original Avengers, and Henry Pym Jr. had a similar boot silhouette. Rendering this was a bit easier than last time, when I got really caught up in the blending and shading for Falcon. It's still very different from my usual workflow, but I think I might be getting the hang of it. And here's the finished drawings, with their respective character profiles. Tell me in the comments which heroes or villains I should tackle next for this Rivals Art Challenge. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky @KaylinVerse to see more of my work. If you want to support me directly, go to my Ko-fi page. You can leave donations or buy some digital items like phone and desktop wallpapers. I've also got an in-print store, so check that out if you want some art prints. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.